We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day is going well. It is Thursday, and as so often the case on Thursday, we have our special guest back by popular demand. But if you came back by popular demand, you'd be here every day, and you're pretty busy as it is. But Old Soul is on the show. Welcome back, Old Soul. You're a
Hey,
sight for sore eyes. And when you're
thank you.
64 doing the shit I'm doing, your eyes get real fucking sore. So this is a nice relief. Um,
Thank you. I gotta say really quickly, I was reading the comments last week, or the last time I was on, and I didn't know that many people would look up Fleece Johnson, but they did.
I looked him up. I looked up
Yeah.
Fleece. I even found a video of him, probably about a 20
hmm
second video of him. It was funny.
You should see that whole interview. He is he, it's not funny. He's a predator, but he's very famous in where I'm from. Everybody know who he is, and you know, he's kind of like, that boogeyman you tell your kids, you don't want to go to jail because of this or that. It's like, you don't want to go to jail because you don't want to get stuck with Fleece Johnson, like he's the boogeyman.
Well, and Garage Door Jeff, I don't know if you heard this email. He says, "I cannot believe I can get a picture, a T-shirt with Fleece Johnson's picture on it, but I can't get a Rational Boomer T-shirt."
Yeah. When you read that, I was like, my man.
Yeah, Jeff is a character. There is no question about it. I always look forward to his emails. Um, we know that Old Soul deals with a lot of young women that are dealing with reproductive medical care they need, abortion. She always has a story. Now, a couple of things.
Um,
First thing we need to get to, because we need to revert back to a story from a ways back, and it's more of a happier tone on this one. But the wild child is back. You're telling me. What's
yeah,
that
she's
about?
here. She's here on vacation. So my daughter, her birthday was on the 28th Thursday. And so her grandmother, her and her little cousin, they were supposed to like figure out what they were going to do for like a couple weeks during the summer. And so they came here for my daughter's birthday, but it's like this is their vacation. They don't go back until next week. And it's been pretty cool to have her here. Her grandmother, like I love her grandmother. She was like taught me some things to cook. I taught her some things to cook. So she makes like garlic confit, like garlic butter.
Hmm.
And so I'll take like my home baked bread and her butter and put it together. And it's like she makes chicharrones and I make candied bacon. And so she was
Shit.
like, hey, make that sauce and I'll put it on my chicharrones and let's see what's going on. And so we did that and it was like, it's amazing. So my mother was like, y'all two need to stay away from each other. We have to grease y'all through the doorway. Like, they gonna grease you too. Y'all over here eating as well.
Well, if you're, I didn't, I know you're talented in many ways. I had no idea that you cooked like that. I got a 2 week vacation coming up. You got an extra bunk? I might want to stay around for a little bit for no other reason than the food and your TT too, because there was more to the story. Grandma and TT hooked up, right? Tell them
Yeah, so
about that.
okay. So my TT, she lives in a senior citizens place, but it's a really, really nice place. Like every paycheck that I get, I have like $150 automatically deposited in her account. And my other two brothers do the same thing so she can, afford a nice place while she's older and stuff. But she has her little homegirls there. They are active, they date, but they're like 70 plus.
They date.
And my mother, I don't call them this. My mother called them because I say, "Oh, they're like the Golden Girls," and she was like, "No, more like the Golden Hoes." But that's what she calls them. But I call them ladies. So I'm like, "Hey, ladies, what's up? What's going?" Like I call them ladies, but my mother calls them the Golden Hoes. But anyway, so my Titi told her like the kids can stay with me. And her grandma can stay with my Titi. She's like, because you're on vacation, you need a break from these kids. And so Arizona Charlie's, it's a casino out here, but it's like where a lot of older people go.
Right.
And so they went to Arizona Charlie's and they're hanging out. And my TT calls me, it was like almost 1 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, what is going on? And she was like, I need you to come get us, girl. We ain't gonna make it. So
So
it was crazy.
grandma and TT were hammered at the casino, And they
It
needed
was
Old
6
Soul to
of them
pick her
that
up.
was hammered. It was 6 of them. They were tore up. So I woke my honey up in the middle of the night, and he has 2 daughters. So he put them in the car. He gets here because my daughter is on, after her birthday with the family, her and Zach and their friends, they went on vacation. So they're not even in the country. So I wake him up. We go there to get them. And my honey is like, how did y'all get this drunk? And one of the ladies, she was like, it's impolite to say no to a drink. And it was like 3 old guys at the bar buying them drinks, hitting on them. And it's like they was dancing, was no music on. So I get her grandmother and I'm like, hey, I'm like trying to get her off the bar stool. And there's like a pole right there. She walks smack into the pole and she's like, ooh, excuse me, I didn't see you standing there. It's like,
Wow.
it was crazy, but we ended up, we got them back home. They were tore up. So I don't know if they're gonna get blood to their feet circulating ever again, but my grandmother has been kicking it since she's been out here. It it's crazy. It's crazy.
And the
But,
wild child's doing all right.
yeah, I told her after the podcast, so her, a couple of her friends that she met out here, and her little cousin, I think her cousin's like, I want to say 14, 15, somewhere in there. They're at David Buster's. So I said, okay. And she got her permit too. So every
Wow.
time we get in the car, she wants to drive.
Yeah,
It's so nerve-wracking. And
I
her
know.
turn, she makes like big, wide turns. Like if you're turning into the right lane, she always ends up in the far left lane, like dang near on the curb. Like her turns is crazy. So her little cousin, she was like, well, Miss Old, I just get in here, I put my seatbelt on and I just hold on. So every time we get in the car, she's like, hey, can I drive? I need to get my drive time. So she has her permit. She's driving. She's trying to get her license and all that stuff. But yeah.
Well, there's one other thing I had to bring up. One of the emailers asked this, and I don't know if you remember this email, but some people are under the impression that I may be a bad influence on you because they've been hearing more salty language out of you. And I said, well, you just don't know Old Soul as well as I do. She comes off as a perfect, compassionate lady, but Old Soul can take it to the street if she's so provoked.
You're not a bad influence. However, I don't know what I'm gonna say tonight because when it comes to politics, I'm not a happy person.
Yeah.
But yeah, the wild child is here. Her grandma, her little cousin here. They're cool. They like being here. We played a game with them. We had a little bit of a serious conversation because my Uncle Cleo and the wild child, I think there's something about her that reminds him of one of his daughters that he lost. It has to be it.
Right.
And he was, she wants to go into the military. And so he said, we have to have a serious conversation. Like if Trump wins, like there's like, what do you think about her going to the military? So we were saying, we don't think about stuff like that because it's like negative. And he was like, no, we have to think about it because you cannot trust anyone in Trump's hands. Like when you look at what Putin is doing with Russia, taking all of the young people, putting them on the front lines, letting them get killed and keeping his more experienced people to the back. When you look at the stuff that Trump is like imitating Putin, and he was just like, I don't know, I probably have to like go somewhere and blow something up. I don't know how like any of us would sleep when that was going on. And my brother was in the military during the Bush administration, and that was not easy on the family at all, just wondering and worrying and not hearing from him for stretches of time. I was just telling him, like, we just need to be positive, do what we can do, and we're going to be all right. Let's not think about stuff like that. But
yeah, well,
I didn't even think about that until he said it.
You can tell Uncle Cleo that Trump's not going to win, so don't worry about it. He's not going to win. I think
Yeah.
I could. I think I'm an older guy too. I could probably hang out with Uncle Cleo or TT. We could have a hell of a time. I don't drink. That's the only downfall I have here. I quit drinking years ago, but I can get a little fucking nuts even without drinking. So
I wish you was here then because they would have had a ride home. They got a designated driver.
there you go. There
The
you go.
ladies was messed up. They was tore up. And there was these old guys over there just like buying them drinks and stuff. It was just It was cute, but it was kind of crazy too.
Yeah, it does sound like it. It does sound a little crazy. Um,
Mhm.
we got a lot of stuff to talk about regarding politics. We've got this whole debate issue. This has been exaggerated to a large extent by the media. You know, the Republicans will spout about it, and now the Republicans, I think, are second guessing what's going on here, because I don't know that they really want Joe to step aside, because then they have an issue that scares everybody: the unknown. Who's it going to be? Who might Kamala or whoever else it might be? What would they do to Donald Trump? Joe's a pretty easygoing, conservative, centrist guy. He's not going to go out and act out, but you throw Kamala in there, she's a prosecutor. She will fuck some people up. I just don't think, in my opinion, unless there's something we don't know, I think Joe should stay in. That's the best possible choice,
Yeah.
because he's been successful as a president, and now he's going to run for president. I wish he was 55 years old. I do, but he's not. That's not an option. So at this point, what are your thoughts about, should he stay? Should he go? What do you think?
Letting him go would be a huge mistake.
I think
And
so
part of
too.
my reasoning behind that is there are a lot of like never Trump Republicans out there. And the reason that Joe Biden is more palatable to them is because he's not like progressive or something. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like if you put someone in there like who is progressive, like you put a Gavin Newsom in there, the younger people would think this is just kind of like a seasoned politician. He has an answer for everything. So
Right.
I think they could come up with excuses not to vote for him. And then Gavin Newsom, like, I'm sorry, I cannot let this go. He was with Kimberly Guilfoyle.
There you
And it's
go.
not that,
Yeah.
I mean, we all have that ex, right? However, it's like, is this the ex that, it was amicable, y'all just broke up? Or is this ex that got pictures and videos of you on your phone? Is this that ex that know that dirt about you? Because if she does, she will not hesitate putting that out there. And that would be our October surprise right there. I think it's a lot of people on the right who will vote for Biden because he's Biden. They don't
Right.
see him as a threat, especially after the debate. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
They don't see him as a threat like that. But when you put someone else in there, that takes that away from them, and it almost gives them a permission structure to not vote Democratic.
Well, I think you make a good point. I mean, we have to just look at the Republicans' history and what do they do? They've done it with Joe Biden. They pick out
Mhm.
little teeny things and they exaggerate it, and they try to pin it on him. Now, it hasn't worked with Joe Biden. He's already been through that mess. Say Gavin Newsom or Kamala Harris or somebody else
Yeah,
comes in. You know they're going to dig out something that may be nothing, but then exaggerate it, throw it into the narrative, and now you got 3 months to fucking fix it.
yeah.
That's not going to be enough time.
I lean more towards, especially when I started seeing like the behind closed door meetings with the family and different, political figures. I think the conversation is this is our best shot right here. We need to get him through the election. And then after that, we can revisit this conversation where we have someone like Kamala who is more forceful and can get things done. And it's like, I hate to say it, but like as a Black woman living in America, I only have my world view. They are not going to vote for her. They are just
Yeah.
not going to vote for her. There's too many people who would look at her as a threat for the simple fact that she is a woman, B, a woman of color. They are not going to do it. It's just way too many people out there that I don't know, maybe oh my gosh, she might give us free health care. She might make college affordable for our children. Ooh, I think a lot of people, their mindset looks at it as a bad thing.
Well, that's a
So,
point. That's a point I hadn't considered. You're absolutely right. Kamala would be perceived as more progressive. I mean,
mhm,
I think that's a bigger issue to work against her than her being Black or a woman. I really do. Although there are tons of racists in this country that that will just not vote for somebody because of their color. Um, if they would have said, "Okay, Joe's not going to run 2 years ago," I would have been cool with it. It would have had time to set this up and get through the process. It's too fucking late. You can't change horses in the middle of the stream with 4 months left. It's not going to work well.
Yeah, I think we need to stick with Joe. Need to make the case for him and the case against Trump. I have like it's crazy because I'm going to start like canvassing next week. So I was like pulling up all of these points because one of their talking points is outside of COVID, Trump did everything right. And I just sat there. I got the dates. I got what happened. It's like a list by list of everything that happened before COVID, everything. And I was making sure that I cross-referenced it with the right-wing reporting. So you can't say this is coming from a progressive. I know they're leery of the government, not coming from a government website. I get it from a government website, and then I find it on a right-leaning website, and that's my cross-reference to make that argument to them. Like, COVID is the only thing that saved the right from knowing how disastrous Trump was. The rest of us knew it, but they didn't know it. So I got those talking points down. Like, yeah.
I can see what's going to happen. You're going to knock on a door. Trump the fuck's going to come to the door. You're going to be all over him like a spider monkey. And when he's done, he's going to be telling his friends, yeah, I'm voting for Biden. And they go, what are you talking about? This little black woman came to me and she told me shit I didn't know. Yeah,
Yeah.
God help those people that have to talk to you and they happen to be Republicans. I would rather talk to me than you when it comes to that shit, to be honest with you. And I'm not that pleasant to talk to if you're a
Yeah.
Republican.
I got all of his screw ups prior to COVID and the recession that we were heading towards because of his trades and his tariffs, his horrible trade policy, his tariffs. I got information with the 5,000 terrorists that he let out. So even though he's blaming Biden for the soldiers that we lost when he was pulling us out of Afghanistan, those people that Trump let out, guess who were the people leading the attack while we were leaving? It was the people that he let out. And I had to make sure I got all my facts for that. So it's like, oh, you like reading Fox News? Here's the date of the article. Here's the title of the article. Go look it up. Because what they say on television is different than what they put in print, because in print, they're more liable. When you're on television, you can just say, hey, it's an opinion show. This isn't fact or whatever. So yeah, I'm ready. Don't play with me.
No, God help them. God help them. They, the Biden campaign should put you on staff. You'd probably be the most dangerous weapon they have. There was another story yesterday that all the governors came to Washington, D.C., and everybody was waiting to hear what happens. And I don't know if anything was really seriously decided, but Joe basically convinced them that they're all in and they seem to support him. So it was mostly a show of support as opposed to a real meeting, I think. But I think it helps in the perception of Joe. I mean, Joe's got to take this situation, this 90 minutes that he looked bad, and the media's then hyped up. And I'm so angry at the media right now because all they're trying to do is create a shit show. They're not doing anything to inform us. They're not doing anything to help the country. They'll say Joe's not competent, and then they'll tell us how bad Donald Trump is. They want these trials and tribulations and all this drama going on because it's good for them, but it's bad for all of us. And they don't give a fuck. It's just about the bottom line. But I think Joe needs to do something now. I mean, the narrative in this country can change very quickly because people have a short memory. They have a short attention span and a short memory. Joe says he's all right. Unfortunately, Joe's going to have to prove it. He's going to have to show up at press conferences where he doesn't have a teleprompter, maybe do a town hall or do rally speeches or whatever. But he needs to keep doing it. He needs to take on the tactic that the Republicans do. It's not good enough to come out once and look good. You got to do it over and over and over again so people's minds get trained on a different avenue regarding Joe Biden.
Yeah. With the media, the most frustrating part about that is they do it for the bottom line. And it's like, y'all don't see it as a temporary bottom line.
Yeah.
If you let him get back in again, your network is going, and about 3, 4 of your colleagues are supposed to be arrested. It's just that simple.
Right.
But that's just me. I do think that when it comes to the way the political landscape is these days, which is weird, is it's kind of like 40% policy and 60% performance. You have to be more performative. Like, you have to have good policies, but your performance has to be like over the top with it. And I do think he needs to like let his cabinet, let Congress spout his statistics and his achievements and where we were and where we're at now. And I think he needs to be more performative, because even when he gave the speech after the debate, he wasn't talking like in the weeds policies. He wasn't talking deficits and trades or any of that. He was playing off of his emotion. Like, you could tell he was angry with himself, and he was playing off of that emotion. And that is the energy. So I do think if they let him be a little bit more performative and then let everybody else make the policy out there for him, I think that would be best for him right now.
Well, don't you
People want
think
to show.
don't you think, yeah, they want to show. Don't you think the debate, for whatever reason, it came off the way it is? I think a big part of it was how he was handled, how he was prepared, and the strategy he used. I suggest Donald Trump was like a snowball rolling down the hill. And to battle that, they said, Joe, just stick to the facts, just talk to the straight facts. Well, how do you follow up a snowball running towards you? And then you got to say, well, unemployment is such and such. You have to kind of match the energy if you want to compete with it. And I made this point, I'll make it again and see what you think about this. In that whole debate, it didn't go well for Joe Biden. It got better toward the second half. There was one point in that debate where Joe Biden held his own, and it was a stupid point, or a stupid period of that debate. But remember when they were arguing about golf, and they were
Yeah.
arguing about their handicaps and worrying about how far they could shoot? At that moment, Joe wasn't on the page. He wasn't spewing data. He was going back and forth with Donald Trump. That's what they should have done. Let him go back and forth with Donald Trump and compete on that level, in order, because just because Donald Trump talks loud and long, some people perceive that as a win. But I think a lot of people heard what he said, and it actually ended up being a net loss for Trump. He did not win that debate, but then neither did Joe Biden.
Yeah. When my daughter used to debate in junior high and high school, one of the things that she would do is when they kind of like dance around a topic, and you could tell like maybe they just don't know facts, maybe they're just talking out of their butt or whatever. She would always start her sentence off with, well, what this person didn't say, or since they didn't answer the question, I will. So she would point out the fact that they not talking about nothing. Listen to me. And I think he could have repeatedly have done that to Trump. And I would have put pressure on Trump to try and answer a question, because Biden is constantly pointing out that you're not answering a question. You don't know what you're talking about. So you can kind of throw subtle jabs like that to pressure him, but falling into like the traps with Trump when he's not talking about anything, that doesn't make sense. Or I would have preferred if Trump went off about his golf game, if Biden would have followed that up with, that has absolutely nothing to do with the American people. That's all about his ego. This is what I want to talk about, and steer the conversation away from that. But when you gish gallop like that and you're just throwing out BS after BS after BS, you can't respond to that. You just have to stick to your own self. But I don't think Biden got like a break, because like my daughter was like cramming and studying and nonstop right before the debate. She was to lose. So she would cram, she would study, but that night before, have her friends over, pizza, hang out, watch a movie or whatever, just get that out of your brain. And I don't think he had a break. I think he was tired, clearly. And I know that he had been doing a lot of traveling and stuff like that, but I don't think he just had like a woosah break before going in there with the orange Mussolini.
Well, what people have to understand is when you talk for a living or your avocation or whatever, because I get it all the time. You have to understand is when you sit down to do the podcast or to do a TikTok, Every day
Mhm.
I might have a little different energy. Some days I might be very low energy. And there's nothing
Yeah,
I can do about it. It's just where I'm at. There are times when I might be talking to somebody where I could get confused. It's not that I'm forgetting, it's just about how the energy is at that point. Now,
yeah.
Joe gave some people a scare now and again,
Mhm.
but what Joe should have done, I think, and of course, I'm different than Joe, but we saw Donald Trump get close to getting more and more unhinged. Joe Biden should have baited him every fucking time because he would have got
Mhm.
further and further unhinged. He's emotional. He can't help himself. Get him to the point where he's just raving. And that would be enough for him to lose that fucking debate.
Yeah, I think with Trump, he's not a confident person. I think
No.
all with him, all it takes is one button and just push, 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 push. That's more than enough. So anytime, and the moderators, they would say like, okay, well, the question was, and I think Joe Biden should have been the one saying that. Well, since he didn't answer the question, let me answer it.
Right.
And just each time he didn't answer a question, point that out, just point it out. And I don't think a lot of people know. I think Trump scared more people than Biden did with the crap that he was saying.
Absolutely.
He really was, because it's like after the debate, people were like, oh my God, Trump could win. And they immediately start like donating money and doing all these other things. So for me, it's like, okay, yeah, that sucked, but what did we gain from it? And I do think at the end of the day, that Trump on that stage was a reminder of what we went through 4 years of him and his BS. And that scared people far more than anything else that I've seen. And I do think that's the reason that a lot of people, not the pundits, but just like a lot of regular people, are flipping out, because there's no way we can go through this again. And they are flipping out because they are scared to death of Trump getting back in there. And I think that's the momentum that we have to keep in the spotlight. Look what he said. How did that make sense? What women do you know is going through 9 months of pregnancy and childbirth and baby showers and gender reveals and setting up a nursery, go into the hospital, have a baby, look at the baby and be like, oh, just kill it. And then what doctor would do that?
Yeah.
When he says stuff like that, you have to call him out. Oh, they're killing babies after they're born. What hospital or state was that in? I ain't heard nothing about that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, it makes absolutely no sense. And it's crazy to hear him say that. It's even crazier to hear people like repeat it.
Yeah.
I
Well,
don't,
thank
I don't get that.
Well, thankfully, only stupid people would believe that. Anybody with average or above intelligence knows better than that. But still, it's in the narrative and it's bouncing around. And Democrats tend to believe anything they hear, and they don't regard where it came from. I mean, that's the whole thing about Joe Biden need to step aside. This was all a narrative. This was all uh, stuff that was started by Republicans, and they threw it out there. And then all of a sudden, the Democrats are going, "Oh my God, does he have to step aside?" Even though it came from the Republicans, and then the media jumps on board. I swear to God, the media. I have a lot of trouble with the media because I feel like anytime they have a competition like this between Joe Biden and Donald Trump, they're like a bookie. They got to handicap it. Okay, so Donald Trump might be winning. Now we got to pump up Joe Biden just to keep the race tight and vice versa. I think that's what they do. And the narrative changes so quickly. I mean, if you look at the media yesterday, top story was Joe Biden going to step aside because he had one bad debate. That's the biggest story in the media yesterday. To me, there was a bigger story, a more egregious story, but you didn't hear him talking about it. It's that document dump in Florida, the 200 pages that came out of Jeffrey Epstein's grand jury hearing. And on those pages, in spite of the fact that Donald Trump said he didn't know Jeffrey Epstein, he sure showed up in those pages a lot. And he showed up in the call log saying, "Hey, I want to verify my reservation to come get my massage." Now, keep in mind, Jeffrey Epstein is the most prolific, most notorious pedophile in this country's history, and they're best buddies, and they're getting together for appointments. What the fuck? Why isn't that the big story?
P.T. Barnum, he said, no one ever went broke depending on the stupidity of the American people. And
There you go.
I
That's not the one.
never, ever, ever wanted to believe that. I know that quote. I never wanted to believe it. Here we are.
It's true.
Sometimes I ask myself, is it stupidity? Is it ignorance? Because there's a difference there. And then sometimes I say to myself, people just, it's like they have to force themselves to be in denial, because how do you tell yourself what you thought, what you believed in, what you hyped up, what you gave money to, who you lost friends and family for over the past 8 years is a convicted felon and a pedophile? Like, how do you say that to yourself?
Right.
But I do think that the media plays off of people's stupidity, because they do
No
talk to people
question.
like they just don't know better. And people act like they don't know better. It's like, for me, like when they say stuff, it's like insulting to me, because it's like, well, you expect for me not to know better? This doesn't make any sense. But then I could turn around and see 20 other people hyping it up, believing it, and repeating it. And I just, like, that quote has been stuck in my head just like a few days now, because I'm like, yeah, people are just stupid.
Well,
And I hate to say that. I hate to say that.
I say it all the time, and I hate it, but it's unfortunately true. But let's look at Donald Trump's history. We know when he was running for president, he admitted that he just randomly grabs women by the genitals. Okay. We know that 26 women have claimed that he sexually assaulted him. We know his ex-wife said he raped her.
Mm-hmm.
We know that he's buddies with Jeffrey Epstein. We also know that there was a lawsuit before the election that mystically disappeared, where he was a co-defendant with Jeffrey Epstein for raping a 13-year-old girl. And I bet that one comes back up again. I'm sure she was threatened or something. But when you look at all those things together, doesn't that put a question in your mind? That might be a red flag. All these accusations and situations where he was involved with sexual predators, pedophiles, and the actions he did himself. Oh, and I forgot, he was also liably found for raping E. Jean Carroll. So throw that into the mix. This guy has a history of being a predator. And these people have the audacity to say, oh, yeah, there's a pedo cabal on the Democratic side. Really? Where are they? Because it looks like you got the leader on your side.
Not only that, but he sexually exploited his own child, his own daughter. Even when he was in the White House, like, oh, dress Ivanka up, make her look pretty. Let's send her into the boardroom so she can talk to so-and-so.
Yeah.
That started from when she was a child until now. And I actually looked at some of her pictures when she was like 14, 15 years old. And she had like so much makeup on and all this other kind of stuff. And it's just kind of like, it's creepy and it's cringy.
Yeah, it really
And then
is.
when I look at people talk about cabals on the Democratic side, I'm like, okay, let's look at Biden and Trump. I have never seen Biden in a picture with Jeffrey Epstein. Can you say you've never seen Trump in a picture? I've never seen Biden's name come up on any call log or anything like that. He's never been to his island. I think Trump might have had his own landing strip at the island.
Yeah, no shit.
It's that constant projection. And I think at this point, they have to tell themselves that. Like, they just have to. It's like finding out that your dad was an axe murderer or something. You have to live in denial. All those warning signs and flags that you saw, you have to ignore it. I think the sad part about what's going on with them is they don't realize that they will be the first people he hurt. Like, the very first people that he hurt. With that Chevron agreement, I'm just now knowing that there's something going up for the coal miners. Who are coal miners? The type of people that vote for Trump. And they are taking away regulations to where your lungs is supposed to be all jacked up. And there's nothing that you can do about it. And then this is the people that Trump goes around and say, yeah, put these great people on the Supreme Court. Yeah. They're supposed to make you die in your 40s. And they will still clap and cheer for that. I guess it's just stupidity again. I don't know how to explain that.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing what people are supposed to be um, believing, what they're supposed to be believing. And it's truly amazing that people do believe it. I don't understand it. You're right. The media does it. Donald Trump does it. The Republicans do it. Um, we always talk about these student loan forgiveness things. I think we need to take it a step further. We need to give everybody free education because we've got an epidemic of stupid in this country. And if we want this country to compete on an international level, we better get some smarter motherfuckers up in this bitch.
Why would you want to educate your children when they could just go to school and learn the Bible?
Yeah. Yeah. It's it's truly amazing to me that we even have to talk about the things we talk about. You know, we got a man who's clearly got a track record, a history of being a sexual predator.
Yeah,
Yet they want to worship him as if he's some deity.
yeah.
There's only one way to describe that. It's stupid and ignorant.
The wild child before she got here, because they're in Arizona.
Yeah.
She went off on a guy in a grocery store. Her grandmother was telling me about it. And the guy, I guess he was like comparing Trump to Jesus or something. He wasn't even talking to her. He was like behind her in the line. And her grandmother said she turned around and she looked this grown man dead in his face and said, okay, if God is Jesus, why don't you just string his ass up on a cross and see how long it take him to rise then? And so she had to like pull her out of the line at the grocery store. And I'm just like, if she is a child and she gets that, how are you a grown adult and you don't get it? Or maybe
Well,
I
don't you
think
think?
some of that is by any means necessary, and they're seeing Trump as evil and they're seeing him for who he is. But if he is the person that's going to help them put Bibles in the school, the 10 Commandments in the school, I think that they'll make excuses for it because he is delivering on the things that they want. So it's
Yeah.
not about his character or any of that. It's not about the people that gets hurt in the process. It's just as long as they get what they want out of the deal, then they can just kind of excuse everything else. Like you hear them say all the time, he's a sinner and he's not perfect. They know who he is. However, he is going to help them achieve the things that they feel is valuable to them. So he's not by any means necessary. And they know he doesn't care. They know he's just going to throw his weight around and get his way. And so they know that other people are not going to do that. He's the one that's going to do that for him. And I think that's what allows them to excuse his behavior.
Well, I think it also has to do with they feel like they've been a class that's been put upon, and that the government has always pushed them down. And here's the one guy that says he's going to fight for them, never does, of course, but that's their only hope. So they don't want to be wrong. They refuse to be wrong. They will fight to the end to be right, even though they are absolutely wrong. And that's kind of the pathetic behavior of these fucks.
Yeah, one of my talking points that I looked up for before COVID is like how each family lost $1,300 in order for the wealthiest Americans to get their tax cuts, right?
Yeah.
And so for them, when Trump comes to them at their rallies and they say, and he's not lying when he says, I gave out the biggest tax cuts, my tax cuts this, my tax cuts that. They cheer the tax cuts, not realizing that their family took $1,300 out of their pocket to pay the wealthiest people in this country. But there's nobody telling them that. And they don't have the capability to think for themselves at this point. I think they
Yeah.
just go in the head.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I absolutely agree. Well, also, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. We've got more stuff to talk about, so stick around with us. We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Old Soul is with us. We've been talking a lot about Joe Biden and Donald Trump and all the bullshit going there. We don't know how that's going to shake out, but we hope Joe stays in and beats this dumb motherfucker in November. We expect that to be the case. We had another issue last couple of days, and that's the Supreme Court ruling on Donald Trump's immunity. It seems like they gave him even more than what he wanted. And it's really exposed the Supreme Court for who they are. They are corrupt, they are criminal, they are biased. It is a broken Supreme Court. And as long as we have a Supreme Court that isn't credible, we have a risk to our democracy. Don't you agree?
Yep, and they did exactly what I said they was going to do.
Yeah, they
I
did.
think that ruling come down and people were like flipping out, and I was like, "Y'all didn't see that coming." And I really, really do believe the way that it was written in a way to say, "Let's see what happens after the election," because they want to send that back to Chuckin, and then they want her to say, "Look at all 200 plus pieces of evidence that you have and what is privileged, what is not privileged, and then send that back to us. And we will tell you if we agree with you on this being privileged and not privileged," right? That
Right.
takes forever and a day. So they were setting it up to where they can say, after the election, if Donald Trump loses, this is what we're going to do. After the election, if he wins, this is what we're going to do. It's not a legal decision. It has absolutely nothing to do with the Constitution because they just cherry pick the heck out of that anyway.
Yeah.
It's setting up to see how it's going to play out during the election, and then they're going to make their decisions from there. And I will say, if the Democrats win and they don't put their foot all up in the Supreme Court's butt, I'm going to have a problem.
Yeah. Well,
Not just
yeah.
a problem, but a huge, huge problem.
Well, and that's a good point. We talk about the Democrats and they are known for missing opportunities. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
I think the whole debate thing was a missed opportunity. They had a
Hmm.
chance to take a wild, crazy motherfucker and look at him stupid. That's why I think the handlers did a poor job in preparing Biden, gave him a poor strategy. Throw in that he's old and that maybe he was tired and maybe on a cold medicine. I don't know. I'm not looking for excuses, but they wanted that debate and they had an opportunity and they missed it, mainly because they're not assertive enough, they're not aggressive enough, and Joe's not really that kind of guy. But they need to get that way over the next 4 months if they hope to overcome the bullshit they're dealing with.
Yeah, I think Joe Biden is our best chance. And of course, I'm going to vote for him. I'm going to be out here in triple degree heat in Vegas stomping for him, right?
Yeah, yeah,
But when he came out after that decision came down, I turned the television off because I was pissed off.
yeah. I was pissed off
I'm like,
too.
you messed, like during the debate, okay, you're supposed to come out fierce and fiery. I didn't want to hear like Americans, like we have enough pressure on our chest as it is. And a lot of people are stressed out. They are really going through it.
Yeah,
And for him to come out and say, oh, in November, it's going to be up to the American people. I was expecting for him to say, you knocked on my door and I opened it, and you're not going to like what you're about to get.
right,
I would have liked to hear something like that because it's like in the meantime, people are suffering, children are hurting, women are and girls are fleeing states.
right,
People are having their rights stripped away from them, taken away from them. You have children in schools who are scared, and then there's other children. You have Catholic children, you have Muslim children, you have atheist children, and they are all going to have a Bible shoved down their throat. What
right.
about those children? So we have to make them go through this until November. A lot of people want him to, I don't know what he could do right now, but at least let them know that you're going to push back and not, well, when November comes, I'm going to show you. Even AOC was like, okay, yeah, I can't wait to get back. I got my article of impeachments already drawn up. We know it's not going to go through, but at the same time, you have to bring attention to it. You have to ring that bell and make a lot of noise. And I don't think he did that. And I was so mad at him.
Yeah.
I turned the television off. I was like, I'm good. I can't do this. I'm good.
The,
That's how
the
upset I was.
the first 10 minutes of it, all I could hear myself going, "Oh shit."
Yeah.
I thought, well,
Hmm.
maybe he'll pick up steam. He's old. Maybe he'll pick up steam. And he never really picked up steam. He was clear and concise about the things he said, far more than Donald Trump was. So then, I mean, it seems like every time we turn around as a community, as a country, we get something like that. I mean, just
Yeah.
as we're getting some traction, something gets us sucked back down. And then as we're trying to recover from that, then we get the Supreme Court. It
Mm,
truly feels like over the past couple of years, especially, we are being tested and we are being tortured by somebody. I don't know who, but we are having to fight for this every inch of the way. And
right.
I still believe in destiny that when it comes out on the other end, it will be all over and we'll look back at this and go, holy fuck, how did we even make it? Because I know a
Yeah.
lot of people feel that way.
I had to tell myself, I'm telling you, like I was pissed off. I was like, okay, what good can I find out of this? Because I was angry. And I had to tell myself that Joe Biden that came on that stage and gave that weak ass talk or whatever it was, that's the reason why never Trump Republicans are comfortable voting for Joe Biden. Because
Right.
if you would have had a Kamala Harris, a Gavin Newsom, heck, anybody, Bernie Sanders, anybody else would have came out and it would have been a lot more forceful and it would have been a lot more, if you want to play this game, let's do it. Biden didn't do that. So those never Trump Republicans, the Lincoln Project, and all these people, they're looking at him like, oh, yeah, that's great. That's perfect. Because they don't want any progressive policies or anything pushed. The only reason we cool right now is because, okay, none of us stand Trump. But we already know, like, hey, we have to draw a truce right now. After the election, go to your corner, I'm going to go to my corner because we don't like each other. We don't mess with each other like that. And that's the only good thing that I can take from it is those Republicans who actually know what's going on and they can see what's happening and they're against it. When they
Yeah.
see Joe Biden like that, they feel safe. They feel comfortable with that, even though it pisses the rest of us off. But Joe Biden has to know, like, yeah, the Democrats and the progressives, they're going to be pissed off. However, I know they're going to vote for me. But these people over here, it's kind of like I have to pacify them a little bit in order to keep them on board. Because once he goes progressive, they jump ship or they vote for RFK or whoever.
Yeah. It's 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 frustrating. And I think you make a good point that if we are put in a position where the Democrats get power, if they don't get on it right away and get serious and get aggressive, I'm going to be pissed off at the Democrats and I'm going to be coming at their ass.
Yeah. I've looked at, even though I don't see Biden opening a door and welcoming that fight, I don't understand why the DOJ isn't. Like, I've seen that they came out and said, even after the election, no matter what happens, we are still going to pursue justice. And it's like, okay, why would you even say that? Because if he wins, it doesn't matter what your investigations say. You're not going to
No.
lock him up after that. So why are you even saying that? But when it comes to Donald Trump and his children, you don't have to do anything illegal. We were talking about the Logan Act, right? If you are a U.S. citizen, you can't go to another country and do business on behalf of the United States. We are constantly seeing Eric and Don Jr. over there with Viktor Orban, and I forgot that one fascist in Britain. The contact between Britain and Putin, they are over there making deals with them. They are
Yeah.
sitting down at the table in front of cameras, signing documents. Please lock them up. If they are saying that we are targeting them, that we are locking them up, do it. Let them know this is what it looks like when you get targeted. This is what it looks like when we put your butt in jail. I don't understand why they are allowed to do that. And I'm just sitting here like, I know if this was Barack Obama, Sasha, and Malia, oh, they would have been in jail a long time ago. We don't care if he was the president or not. You can't go over here as a private citizen and speak for the United States of America. You can't do that. And on top of it, you got three of the world's biggest idiots doing it. And it's like, it's all bought and paid for, especially with that hotel deal that Trump got with the Saudis going on right now. What do you think is going to happen when he is president, or, God forbid something like that happens? He is not looking out for our best interests. He's looking out for his own. So why are you giving them the opportunity to do that? And it's just driving me crazy. Well, we're going to continue our investigations. What is there to investigate? They are on television, sitting down with dictators in other countries, signing documents, smiling, shaking hands, and all that stuff. And nothing is being done. I think that's the reason I'm pissed off right now, because I had just saw them doing that before I logged on, and I'm like, this is absolute. There's nothing to investigate. You are on tape. Look right here. Pause. Freeze frame. We see you doing it. So you get to take your butt to jail. I don't understand why, when it comes to the United States, that not the CIA, not the FBI, not the DOJ, no three-letter bureaus nowhere is doing anything, just sitting back chilling. It's insane to me.
Now,
It's insane. They don't know what persecution is.
Yeah.
But we can teach them. We can show them. You don't have to read it in a book. You can find out firsthand what persecution looked like. No problem.
Well, when that Supreme Court decision came out, one of the ramifications of it, I'm curious as to what you think about this. They, of course, Donald Trump's team made an appeal to Judge Marchand and said, hey, we're immune. Now you got to throw this whole thing out, which isn't the case. He isn't totally immune from all the things in that case. But Judge Juan Marchand says, okay, we will extend or postpone the sentencing date to September 18th. And Alvin Bragg himself even said, yeah, that's fine. We can postpone it till the 18th. What was your gut? I mean, obviously you were disappointed. I was disappointed, but what were your thoughts about that when that happened?
I thought I was living in an upside down world.
Yeah.
I really did, because while you're making strategy and you're trying to do behind the scenes stuff, people are really feeling it.
Yeah.
And it's so, like, I had to like turn the news off for a couple of days. I had told somebody to do that in the comment section, and I'm like, how am I telling him to do that and I'm not doing it? Because it was really making me angry. It just makes me angry when you sit back and you watch it. Like, they just constantly playing in your face all the time. And there's nothing that you can do about it. If it was someone sitting across from me or somebody I knew, I can address the situation. There's something I can do. So sometimes it's like this helpless feeling that goes on. So I had to just kind of like turn it off for a couple of days, because I was just so angry about it. I was so angry. I was like, here we go again. He got his felony convictions, but at the same time, he got his delays. He gets to push it back a little bit further.
Yeah. Well, the thing about it is that there is an upside to all of this, or at least an explanation. In terms of Judge Juan Marchand saying we're going to postpone it till September 18th, and DA Bragg saying, yeah, that's cool. They almost kind of had to do that, because really what Donald Trump's team was looking for is something to use in an appeal. And in order to protect themselves in that appeal, they had to give him time to present the case. He's already brought this case before about certain amount of evidence given while he was president, and he wants that evidence excluded. And if you exclude that evidence, then you can just throw the whole thing out. Well, that's not how it works. That didn't work the first time. It's not going to work this time. But they had to kind of placate him so it doesn't come back to bite him in the appeals. I understand that. But the upside of this whole thing is that they would have had the sentencing 17 weeks before the election. Now it's going to be 7 weeks before the election. He's not going to get this thing overturned. They're going to do the sentencing on the 18th of September. They have to. But then he's only got 6-7 weeks after that for people to forget about it. And they won't forget about it, especially if it's a particularly egregious sentence.
I would buy the saving themselves for appeal argument, or protecting themselves for the appeal, if it was a federal crime.
True.
I would understand it if it was in Florida. But this is a state crime and it's in New York. I can't give them a pass on that. Okay. And then when they tell me, okay, well, it's going to happen on September, whatever, I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm not even looking forward to that date, because I was looking forward to this one. Copped out. The next one, we'll see what happens when we get to September, because it seems like if his objective is to delay, oh, that's the only thing he get an A+ in. He has been able to do it hands down. So it's just kind of like, all right, well, we'll see what happens. It's frustrating for me to watch that happen when I know for a fact that it doesn't have to be like that. Right. I've seen the Secret Service having meetings with the judge and with the prison system to say, hey, if he goes to prison, what does that look like? They know how to do it. They have all the authority in the world to lock his butt up, and they just won't do it. It's one man over millions of people over this whole country. It's this one man's rights over everybody else. It's like, look, y'all gonna have to wait. Y'all gonna have to see what happened. We don't know, because we don't want to trample on Trump's rights. We don't want him to score a point in the appeals process. Really? When I know it's not like if he was president, because I say to myself, it was Obama and his children. I guarantee you it would not be planned out like this. It would not be planned out like this. It just wouldn't.
Well,
It
I
wouldn't.
think one of the things we've realized since Donald Trump was president and afterwards, with all these conservative, incompetent people appointed to federal courts and to the Supreme Court, we have a horribly broken judicial system. And I'm not just talking about the Supreme Court. We got Aileen Cannon in Florida. We got some of these dumb fucks around the country that are making these abortion issues and the contraceptive issues. Over and above the problems we already have, our judicial system is absolutely fucked. It's not that they won't go after somebody and make them pay the price. They just don't do it to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I get very angry when somebody in government says nobody's above the law. That is categorically bullshit.
Yeah, that's a buzzer crock.
It is. It's a bunch of shit. And so when we get through this in November and the Democrats win, and I'm still convinced that my mind has not been changed about that. Donald Trump has just got way too much fucking baggage to win anything. There's a lot of digging we have to do to get out of this fucking hole. It's not going to be fixed immediately. I mean, the Democrats are going to get 4 years. They're going to need another 4 years at least to get things almost straight. But it's going to take some fucking time.
Yeah, I think that people fail to see because they look at the Supreme Court and how bad that is. And they look at Judge Eileen Cannon like, oh, she's just one person. What they don't understand is when it came to Obama appointing judges, they did absolutely everything in their power to stop him from doing that. When he left the office, it wasn't just Merrick Garland's seat that they stole. It was 60 other seats. And then when Trump got in there, I'm not going to say Trump filled those seats because he didn't. Mitch McConnell came to him with a list. These are the people you need to put their butts in the chairs, period.
Right.
So when you say that is broken, it's always been broken for people like me.
Right.
It's just
I'll give you that.
They're at the point now where they just like they used to try to hide it before, cover it up. They don't care about hiding it no more. They just do it all out in the open in front of your face. They don't care. And the reason that they're allowed to be like that is because there's absolutely no consequences for it. So they're emboldened. It's like once Trump, he's kind of like that kid that stuck his toe in the pool to kind of test the water a little bit. Then he like slid his leg in there and then he stood back for a minute and was like, wait a minute. And he just jumped in because he knew nothing was going to happen to him when he did it. And it's like, it's like wheels off, balls to the wall now with the Republicans, all of them. Right. Even the guy who's like, yep, we're not going to have a Bible in the classroom. He said, we are going to be teaching from the Bible. And when reporters asked him, well, what about the Quran? What about this? What about that? He was just like, no, our country wasn't founded on that. It's going to be the Bible, the way I interpret it. This is how all the schools across the board is going to do it. And if we lose teachers, then, hey, we just lose teachers. It's not like the kids in my state was getting an education anyway, pretty much. And then I can guarantee you that man will be reelected again. So it's not the politicians, it's the people, and the people in these states, like they don't care. I found that out through my volunteer work. They do not care. They don't care at all about nothing except for tax cuts that they don't even benefit from and deregulations who put their safety in place when they're trying to go to work, rolling back child labor law so your child can go to work when they're like 12 and 13 years old. It's insane. And they don't care about none of that. They really don't. It's like, oh, we need all these gay people gone. We need all these immigrants out of the country. I don't care if my children are hungry. We need to get them up out of here. And that's literally what they think. It's insane.
I wish that we could section them off into an area and say, you live just the way you want to live, and let's see how that goes. Because, I've said this before about about people who vote. We're in this position right now, not because of politicians. We're in this
Hmm.
position because of us. We were
Yep.
apathetic. We were stupid. We got caught up in noise and we voted without thinking. And when I say
Comfortable
we,
too.
yeah. And when I say we, I mean the entire country. Now, not everybody voted for Donald Trump. I didn't, you didn't, and so forth. But we allowed it to happen. And when it got bad, we didn't get down and dirty and get gritty and go after them and realize the potential disaster it was. And this goes back to the Democrats when they didn't codify Roe v. Wade. They had every opportunity to do it and they didn't do it because they got lazy. They had something more important, something that was worth more to them at the point. They thought it would never happen. Well, you
Yeah.
fucked around and found out it did happen. And it happened because the Democrats didn't codify it when they had the opportunity, which they should have done. They knew this was a trigger point for the Republicans and a focus point too.
I think Democrats for such a long time, and even now to some extent, they underestimate the abrasiveness of the Republican Party and also the cruelty of the Republican Party.
Yeah.
And then when you see, I remember my daughter, she wrote a psychology paper. It was social validation takes away from your sense of self. And because they are all like in these like bubbles, they're all in their own states. Like it's hard to be a blue dot when there is just all Republicans around you. Sometimes if you can isolate a person or get a person by themselves, they are more open to listening and they may think a little bit more clearly about themselves. But they know that they can't go against the grain because they're so cliquey. They all have to stay together. They don't have a sense of self. They're looking for their peers and the people around them to validate them. And when
Right.
they do that, things don't change because if everybody is voting for the guy who is crooked, they're not going to turn around and vote for something different. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like ingrained into them that this is what's right. And I see that with them. And it's kind of like we have to click up and stay together as well. And I think because we do think for ourselves more, that's almost like more of a challenge because it's like try getting all of us to come together and say, you know what, Joe Biden, that's what we got. We're going to have to push forward. Forget it. No, we're going to sit around and debate it for 2-3 weeks. And that's just wasting time.
Right.
It's sad to see that. But the people who vote for them, they are the problem. They are the problem. They have a completely different mindset than planet Earth. I don't know where these people are living at.
Well, given that, is it even fixable? I mean, we can't educate a bunch of people. We can't
Yeah,
change their minds, especially Trump-the-fucks. They don't want to hear anything. They can't
right.
comprehend facts or truth. Is that
Mm-mm.
fixable? All you can really do in this case is what I've said all along, is you've got to push back on the bullying and you got to
Mm-hmm.
roll over them. We have the
Yeah.
potential, we have more people, we have the power, but we got to stand up, pull up our pants, and get powerful and push back. If we don't do that, we're going to get what we get, and it's hard to feel sorry for somebody who doesn't fight to get what's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, it is sad because when you think about it, like when we show up in numbers and we vote and we put a Democrat in the White House and everything is running smooth in Congress or as smooth as it can be, we do benefit from it. But at the same time, you're still seeing people who are not benefiting from it. But it's not that they're not benefiting from it, they don't know that. So you look
Right,
at red states who, when the government try to send fund so that their children don't have to starve during the summer. And then you
right,
have their state saying, no, we cool. We like our kids being hungry. Or when you try to do Medicaid expansions, certain states have the right to say, you know what, it's the states' rights issue. We don't want free health insurance here. Take that back over there. But then when you take resources from us, because we tend to pay more in taxes, that just goes back to their states so that they are not like impoverished and living in the Great Depression. It's sad to see that, but what incentive do they have to change if our taxes from our states is going to be funneled to their states and their government just gets to take the money and run and buy yachts and not do anything for those people? I think we need to change like the whole structure of the system. Like, I don't think that as a state you should be allowed to turn around funds to feed children. Like, why is that your choice to do that? Why is it your choice not to have Medicare expansion or to build other hospitals? Why is that your choice? They keep those people down for a reason, and then they just point the finger at someone else. And we need to fix that so that those people can feel the benefits of it. Right now, they don't feel it. So that's why they keep voting the same way that they do. And they don't understand enough to know that the president of the United States is not personally coming to your state and doing it. He's sending resources and he's sending funds to make it happen. But if your state says no, that what else do you want them to do? Like come put a gun to their head and make them expand Medicaid? Like that's not going to happen. So I do think we need to fix it to where they shouldn't have absolute power like that. They just really shouldn't. We have to fix that somehow. But when it comes to red states, I don't know how you do that. Those people are just gone. I don't have no idea how to do that. But I'm open to listening to somebody have some ideas on that because I don't know how you do that.
Well, now after we experienced the debate and the Supreme Court decision, I know how you felt. I know how I felt going into November. Do you feel any differently about what's going to happen in November? Are you a little less confident of it?
I'm not worried about Biden as much as I'm worried about what the makeup of the House and the Senate will look like. And what made me start to think like, wait a minute, I don't know about this blue wave, is when Lauren Boebert won her district.
Well, yeah. Well, she won the primary. She was the Republican choice. She didn't necessarily win, but you got to remember Ken Buck was the guy there before. And the reason she moved over there is because it's more red. The fact of the matter is Marjorie Taylor Greene will probably win her seat. She might not even be fucking opposed for that matter. So it shouldn't be surprising that these red states vote for red dumb fucks because they've been doing it all along.
Here's the thing. I wouldn't agree with it, but I can understand it if they put religious zealots into positions of power who actually believed what they were saying. Like I can wrap my mind around that. But when you put somebody in a position of power, Lauren Boebert, for an example, whose son impregnated a 15-year-old girl, he's running around with 39 felony counts, grand larceny. Literally, his mom, his dad, and the son all got mug shots going on up in here. And then you sit here and you listen to this heifer talk about we need to bring morality back to this country. I'm like, look, if you don't go somewhere and sit down, you are getting groped in a public place in front of pregnant women and children.
Yeah.
And you have the nerve to go on television and say we need to bring morality back in this country. Not only can I not take her seriously, but I can't take anybody in that district seriously at all. Kim Buck was different. He really was, because even though you know his policies, like if I had none of his policies, I can sit in front of him and have an articulate conversation.
Yeah,
I really could. He had something about him that was not cartoonish or buffoonery like this. And it's like, if these are the people that you are voting for, then this must be what you want. This must be what you like. Because if you really did believe in the doctrine in which you claim that you hold all dear to, you would look at Lauren Boebert and you would just laugh. You would die laughing at that.
One thing I have to do, I have to correct you on something. Lauren Boebert wasn't the gropee. She was the groper. She was the one groping the man. So that makes it even more egregious that this sitting member of Congress seems to think it's okay to sit in a crowded theater, and
but you
grope
don't
her
know,
date.
the only reason that happened is because her boyfriend was a Democrat. That's the only reason that happened. He just, rubbed off on Paul Little Bobo. It wasn't her fault.
If you're a Democrat and you see Lauren Boebert, regardless of if you're attracted to her, what makes you think that you want to date this bitch? And I only call her a bitch because Marjorie Taylor Greene dubbed her a little bitch. And I don't know that she's that little, but she's definitely a bitch. That was an accurate statement.
Lauren Boebert don't want to be in my presence at all, here or in the afterlife. She just don't. I feel like if I was in heaven, right? I'm dead. I'm in heaven. And I'm just up there kicking it, right? And I seen Lauren Boebert come up in there. That's the day I'm getting kicked out of heaven. And then I have to tell you this. So my daughter going to live a full, happy life, right? And when she come to heaven, she going to be looking around like, hey, where's my mom? Do me a favor and tell her, oh, your mom seen Lauren Boebert up here and she got kicked out. That was the very first heaven ass kicking contest that happened. So she ain't here. We don't know where she went, but she ain't here no more. Just let her know what happened and she'll understand it. I don't see how these people think that anything religious about any of these people. It's beyond me. It's pure, like, it's evil. And sometimes when I'm watching them and they have little smirks on their faces when they're talking, it's almost like behind that smile or that
Right.
smirk, it's kind of like a little sly grin or something, like they're getting over it. They know they're getting over it. And they just like that. You know what I mean? I can just feel the evil coming off of these people.
Well, you know, the thing
I don't know
about
how
it,
other people don't see it.
the thing about it is the Republicans are always saying that the Democrats are weaponizing the DOJ. They, without question, weaponize religion. They don't.
Absolutely.
They don't
Oh,
do anything to
absolutely.
They don't do anything to follow the rules of religion that they espouse on. They use it as a shield to do whatever they want, and they say, and then when they get caught up in it, well, I believe in God, and that's supposed to be a pass, go, stay out of jail. And that to me is probably the most insulting things to anybody that's truly religious and believes what they believe and lives the life. These people are so corrupt that they not only try
Mhm.
to corrupt the government, but they're destroying the religion that they're supposed to be spouting off about.
Yeah, I mean, taking in the sick and the shut in, loving thy neighbor, feeding the homeless. Oh, that's out. We don't be thinking about that though. But we need to put them in jail yesterday.
Yeah.
None of and it's so crazy because you do have people who they weaponize it, and like a lot of the girls that come here when they're molested or they're raped or anything like that, the very first thing that they are told is you need to forgive that person. And if it's like if you don't forgive that person, like sometimes they have a difficult time forgiving them, and I have to tell them you don't have to forgive them. It's up to you. You need to go through your own grieving process, but it doesn't make you a bad person because you don't look at the person that put you in this predicament and say, well, God would want me to forgive you, so it's all over and it's done with now. And they are teaching girls that that is the way it's supposed to be. They're not held accountable at all. The One of the things they do in the church that just drives me crazy is they send them away to, I don't know, religious boot camp or wherever they're sending these predators to, and they are supposed to get right with God within a couple of months. They come back to the church and they are like embraced with open arms, and all of a sudden they're changed. It's weaponizing religion against some of the most like vulnerable people. Children are vulnerable, and they allow that to happen in the name of religion because God wants you to forgive everybody all the time, no matter what they did.
What's
It's
ironic about that?
insanity.
Ironic about that is they want you to forgive the predator, but if that woman went and got an abortion,
Mm-hmm.
they would never forgive her. Never. That's a different story.
Yep. And then right now, they are pushing, I know in Texas and another state, they are pushing the death penalty for that. Now, these are people who believe in life will be the first person to pull the switch for a woman getting medical help.
Well,
The very first people to pull the switch.
and this goes back to the bullying tactic. I'm going to get in your face. I'm going to threaten you as much as you can so you submit to what I want you to do. That's really what they're trying to do. And they always fail when they do that because somebody always comes out and pushes back. Um, it's very
I do
frustrating.
think that tactic that you just said, that tactic, it worked for the moderators on the debate because they knew if
Yeah.
they would have corrected Trump, fact checked him, any of that, the very first thing that would have been on the right wing media was it was a 3-against-1 because they were attacking Trump. Asking
Right.
him a follow up question, they will look at that as an attack. Fact checking him, they're looking at it as attack. And I think the moderators, they were like just social media everywhere. They were literally like saying this before the debate. So I do think the moderators was just like, hey, we have to seem like we're even and we're going to stay out of it. And I do think they allowed themselves to be
Right.
bullied,
Well,
bullied by
they
Howard.
they certainly did, and if they call themselves journalists, they're mistaken. They did nothing. You know, they were basically calling bingo is what they were fucking doing. Here's the next question. They didn't do anything that a journalist might do. And to be honest with you, this has been something that's been going on for 8 years. If any media outlet and any alleged journalist had pushed back on Donald Trump back in 2015, we wouldn't be here today. And
Yeah.
that's why I hold the media so responsible. They misinform us, they divide us, and they let this guy run roughshod. And that's why he got where he got.
Donald Trump was just busted on tape saying, it doesn't matter what you say, it doesn't matter what you do, as long as you're good for their ratings, you can do whatever you want. He was literally caught on tape saying this.
And that's absolutely true. We know
I
that.
have to tell you something about that. I told my Uncle Cleo, I was going to tell you that he said this. So during the debate, he said he wished that they could have had those little shock collars. And every time Trump told a lie, they could have just pushed the button. And my daughter looked at him. She said the man's head would have exploded. Like,
Yeah.
but I told him, I was like, I can't wait to tell Boomer you said that. It just made me think about that. But go ahead.
I think that's a brilliant idea. And maybe your uncle should, Uncle Cleo should be running the next debate. Put him on both. Joe'd put one on because he doesn't fucking lie.
You could trust me with the buzzer because I'll be pushing it and Trump ain't even talking.
you
Like,
know,
oops, my finger slipped.
it's funny. We talk about Joe Biden's cognitive status.
Yeah.
And in that debate and in every other fucking rally we see and all this sort of stuff, his cognitive abilities should be deeply in question. I mean, he can't stay on track. He goes off on tangents. He lies profusely. And he garbles words. He makes up words. He can't finish sentences. But nobody's addressing that. And that's got to be strictly because the Republicans don't care and the Democrats do.
Yeah.
What we have to do with Joe Biden right now, we have to take a page from the Republican Party. We've got to, if we're going to go with Joe, Joe needs to get out there and prove himself. But the Democrats got to stop being whiny little bitches and get behind Joe regardless and keep pushing. Because if you don't, you're going to be responsible for the destruction of this country. I mean, I think we can all believe that if Donald Trump gets in, we're not making any progress. We're going to get steadily worse.
I don't know if you used to watch the Dave Chappelle show, that Wayne Brady episode when he was like, does Wayne Brady have to check a beam? Right? I think that Joe Biden needs to show not just the Republican, but the American people in general, that he's capable of handling business. And right now he's not capable of that. The only reason that the Supreme Court is ruling and doing the crap that they're doing is because they know that. They know, and we set these rules. Oh yeah, Trump, he gonna take it and just run with it. Biden is gonna say, well, this is not American, this is unconstitutional, blah, blah, blah. If this would have been anybody else, like this is Kamala Harris instead of Biden, I guarantee you that immunity decision would have been completely different because it's like, oh no, we don't want to give this woman that kind of power. I do think that he needs to throw his weight around a little bit, and he doesn't even have to do it in an illegal way. Every single day, Trump and his family commits at least one crime. Every single day.
Right.
I think they might commit that before breakfast.
Well, and that's the thing is maybe the DOJ should be watching what's going on now because he certainly doesn't have immunity as a non-president. If you can't catch him on one thing, you can catch him on current shit. He's gotten away with a lot of stuff over his lifetime, but right now he should be under the microscope. And every little thing he does, every little thing he says, he should be made to pay a price for.
Yeah, I talked about it, but what is your opinion? And I'm sorry, this is just so scary to me. Like Trump and his family, they don't scare me at all. Like I don't care. Eric Trump, Don Jr., meet me outside. especially Don Jr. You gonna come over here high and think you supposed to win a fight? I got all kind of coins in this sock. Let's go. What do you think about them being allowed to go to Viktor Orban and the Saudis and make deals on camera? Like, what do you think about that? Because right now that is what scares me because I don't know what the Saudis have paid for when it comes to them. And that it really does, it out of any and everything, like Trump don't scare me, his kids don't scare me, but those backdoor deals, and they're doing it so openly. That scares me because it's like, what the heck is going on? Like, what are they planning? What are they up to? That makes me paranoid sometimes. It really does.
Well, I've said when it comes to Donald Trump and the Republicans, I think they realize their time is short. You know, the millennials and Gen Zs will pretty much take over in 2028. They see the end is near, so they panic and they got nothing to lose. So they're like the person in the home that's been foreclosed on, and they're just tearing the place up, punching holes in the walls and stuff like that. I think they realize that they aren't long for this world in the power situation that they have. So they're just flailing around, trying to grab anything just to save a little more power or to extend it a little longer. When these guys are out there doing what they're doing in public, I have to say, if it were you or me, I think there would be a lot of blowback on it. Uh, the only
I'll be
reason,
on the list.
well, and the only
I'm
reason,
probably on the list now, to be honest with you.
me too, me too. But um, I think it's largely due to the fact, again, it's on us. If it was a Democrat, the Democrats would be standing in line to make sure they're accountable. The Republicans don't care. Anything is a go. Anything as long as it benefits them, it's a go. So he gets no pushback for anything from the Republican Party. And unfortunately, even though it's slim, they have control of the House, and we don't have a big enough margin in the Senate. That's why it's so crucial. If you want people accountable, you have to have people that are willing to make them accountable. And the Republicans are not willing to make anybody accountable.
It feels like the Republican Party are not going to make them accountable, but we're kind of co-signing on it because we're not doing anything about it either. I didn't know if the deals that they were making, because I know there's a strictly transactional, if this is just about, like, could you imagine a hotel of Trump in Saudi Arabia? So I'm like, this has to be more than real estate. I would think that the CIA, the FBI, all the three-letter alphabet people would know that this is a national security threat, and maybe behind the scenes they're doing something.
Yeah.
But it just feels like maybe they're not doing anything. But I have to tell myself that the CIA is not going to tell us what they got going on. So I have to know that they are paying attention and are watching. But I see it as a national threat. I saw my brother had to go off to war because Bush didn't take his briefings seriously. How many times was he warned that this attack was coming and did nothing about it? And so it's just kind of like to watch them. I think that he was kind of a war criminal, but also a buffoon and kind of dumb to not pay attention to his briefings. I think with the Trumps, it would be intentional on their part. Like, okay, if you give me a certain amount of money, then you can do this, that, and the third, but don't go further than that. I don't know. I just see it as a national security threat. And I don't see anything being done about it. I don't
No.
see the press talking about it. Like, how is the press not saying Donald Trump Jr. and Eric is talking with Viktor Orban? This is them sitting at the table signing deals and documents. Like, I don't know how the press does not talk about that.
How do
That is
we?
baffling my brain. I don't get it.
Also, they don't have time. They're too busy talking about Joe Biden's debate. I mean, this is why I think the media is culpable to all the troubles we're having in this country, and that's got to
Yeah.
be straightened out too. We're getting toward the end, but I wanted to give you a quote here and see if you see the underlying fear in this quote. This one comes from Jim Jordan. Uh,
Wait a minute. You supposed to quote Jim Jordan?
I'm going to quote Jim Jordan,
I'm
and
sitting there thinking you supposed to quote Dr. Maya Angelou or somebody. You said Jim Jordan. I had
Jim.
to sit up for this one. Let's go.
Okay. Well, of course, he was hailing the Supreme Court's decision.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Now, it's meant to give Donald Trump some freedom and some delays and all that stuff. But it's also being noted by a lot of Democrats that basically makes a president a king, and it just so happens Biden's the king.
Ain't nobody named supposed to do nothing. Go ahead.
Well, wait a minute. You don't know. I mean, hold on a second. This is what Jim Jordan said. He called on the ideological left to uphold democratic norms. Can you imagine Jim Jordan asking the Democrats to uphold democratic norms? I get that as a message saying, okay, Joe's got some power. Don't fuck around and hurt us with it. That's the impression I get.
And we wasn't on this phone out of through my phone. I think when you look underneath that, he realizes that they gave Joe Biden an extreme amount of power.
Yeah.
However, he want to low-key send out a threat. Like, you don't want to be perceived as abusing the law or playing tricks and dirty games or whatever. I do think it's kind of like a low-key threat. Who is you threatening? Who? Because according to you guys, you know, SEAL Team 6 can come and just knock you off. You're lucky you don't fall out of a window.
Yeah.
I do think that Biden should flex his muscle a little bit and just say,
Absolutely.
hey, this apply to me too. So let me just do something. I just want to see him use that act that they just gave Trump, but just use it for everybody else. Because I think that it's not as far as like the debate or anything like that. I do think a lot of people just needs to see him being strong. And one of the sad or unfortunate things about the debate was a lot of people don't pay attention to politics like we do. And that was like their first time really seeing Biden on the stage in like a long while. It's like getting close to the election. People are just now starting to tune in. They hadn't really been paying attention to him. So it's kind of like, you know, you ain't been paying attention for 2 years. And the first time you see somebody, he up there, well, he don't sound, nobody sounds as bad as RFK Jr., but he sounded like he got a frog in his throat. He is stammering. He seems weak. You can tell he's tired. That was the image that they have of him. And so it's up to him to paint a better picture of himself. And one of the ways that he can do that is to show that he don't mind slinging a little mud. He ain't going to fully get in there and wrestle with you, but he doesn't mind doing that. And I do think that will go such a long way because everybody knows with a bully, you don't have to fight a bully every day. You just have to fight him one time. That's it. He gonna leave you alone. Unless it's Fleets Johnson, because he like a little challenge sometimes. You know what I mean? But if they saw that, just hit him one time. And then you will see, you see sometime when Biden says something strong, like he uses a slur or something, oh, I can't believe Biden is using that type of language. Like they're clutching their pearls and they doing all this extra stuff. You know, we're supposed to be above that. And they say this crap. Their heads would explode if he took just an ounce of the power that the Supreme Court just gave him and just used it. I think that would make a lot of people more comfortable with him, but he has to show he can be aggressive. He just has to.
He does. Well, you know, the couple of things with Joe Biden, if it looks like the thread that's holding democracy together is going to break and it's a desperate time, and if Joe's maybe losing it a little bit, he could pull some shit off. But you know what I really think they're afraid of? The story going around was that Joe would resign, Kamala would become president, and then run as an incumbent in November, which may be the only way something like that could work if she was the incumbent. But imagine this, Kamala with immunity. Now we're talking a whole different story.
I do think that would happen after the fact. I think it's very strategic to keep Biden in, get us to the finish line, hand her the baton, and let her take off.
Yeah.
I was sitting here daydreaming. I was supposed to be working, but I was daydreaming. And I was thinking, like, who would Harris pick? Not only is a great VP, potential future president, but at the same time, which is really, really pissed the right off. And I was thinking, if she got a VP that was another woman, or Buttigieg, who is like gay, he's married, he has children that he's raising, like that would just get under their skin so bad. And there's nothing that they can do for the next 4 years except for bitch, moan, and piss on themselves. That's would just get under their skin. So I was like daydreaming that, you know, after the election, Biden is like, all right, girl, you got this. And then she just came up with like Elizabeth Warren or Pete Buttigieg or somebody. You know, they're capable. They earned that position. But at the same time, it's like a 2-for-1. You know, it's going to piss them all the way off. Who do you think would be a good VP for her?
If I just want to piss them off?
Well, they have to be capable too. Like, we can't be like the right and be like, we're going to put somebody just to piss them off. Like, somebody that's capable and is going to piss off the right.
Okay,
who would you pick?
I would think there's some.
Oh, and Garage Door Jeff, I want to hear what you think too. And Grandma Patty, but go ahead.
If you really want to piss them off, AOC. That would make their fucking heads explode. AOC.
I
Make
didn't
her
even
the
think about
VP.
that. I didn't even think about that. Oh my God, they would probably drop from fright.
That would be hilarious. I would
You
love to see
know
that.
what? You one up me on that one. You got me. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, AOC would be the one that pisses them off so much, or there'd be one better one.
Stacey Abrams.
Well, she'd be a smart one to do. We need to
Yeah.
get her back in the mix, but there's one worse than AOC.
Oh,
My own home state's Ilhan Omar.
oh my
Get
God.
a Muslim up in that bitch.
Okay, so out of this battle of who her VP picks could be, you won this round, hands down. You won because AOC and oh my God, I'm telling you, they dropped dead. They would drop. They would drop it like the. Oh my God.
Well, what they could do is make AOC the VP, and then Ilhan Omar the Secretary of State. That
Oh
way, you get a
man.
double whammy going up there.
Ugh. When I think about stuff like that, it really does. Like I kind of smirk a little bit. It gets me through like the anger that I'm feeling. I know I was a little loose with the language tonight, but I was kind of angry when I logged on. So
Well, your language you can blame on me. I'm clearly a bad influence, and
I'm horrible influence.
all right, and yeah, if we need to go to war with somebody, just let your mom and your daughter know we're going to need some backup.
Hey, I'm willing to get kicked out of heaven. Like, bring it. You can't come up here and mess up everybody's souls and peace now. You got to get up out of here.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, Old Soul, we're going to wrap things up. I appreciate you coming. It's always great fun and entertaining and also informative for me. I always learn something when I talk to you, and I know the people who listen to the show love it too. So I appreciate you coming on again
Oh, wait.
and
Happy
tolerating me.
4th of July, everybody.
That's right. It's 4th of July
Yeah.
as you're listening to this. Happy 4th of July, the birthday of the United States of America, a democracy. Remember those words. I can't remember who said them. It was one of the forefathers. He said, "It's a democracy if you can keep it." We're being tested right now.
Yeah.
This is America's birthday. Let's stop fucking around and keep this democracy going.
Yep. 4th of July is a motivator. We got it. We can do it.
We can do it. We can do it. All right. Old Soul, thank you very much for those listening. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to do that. I hope you have a great day, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.